And welcome, Nerds Out of Water is a podcast brought to you by two tech professionals and long-term friends, Michael Lobb and David Camus. Both have worked in various technical careers and have switched to running and owning their own businesses, taking them out of their little fish ponds and putting them in an ocean of sharks. Michael runs TeamScale, whose mission is to reduce risk in software development projects, allowing those visionary founders and talented developers to deliver amazing software on time and on budget.
And let me introduce David. David runs One Bright Cloud and has a view towards a future where AI is commonplace and autonomous vehicles provide transportation to your location with the smallest energy footprint. From time to time, we'll be joined by guests ranging from businesses to technologists to every role in between. We challenge our own perspectives and we try to see things from each other's perspective. You don't need to agree, but after listening to this podcast, you'll definitely have an idea. David, today we're talking to a person who has recently moved from a corporate role in an operations manager type of position to being a personal trainer in the fitness industry. So he has he's a great speaker, and he has so much joy and happiness in the way that he presents himself. He also shares his name with a famous cricketer, so that could be confusing if you're listening to this hoping to find out a little bit about cricket. I'd like to introduce Shane Warne. Hi Shane, how are you?
I'm brilliant, thanks. I'm really good, man. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. We obviously met. I think it was about 10 years ago when you were sitting up in our IT area, and you moved from there to an operations role. And you've been working in that operations role and building a lot of processes and around the business. And do you want to tell us about yourself and how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, that's a big story with lots of turns and U-turns and brick walls and finding ways to climb over them and deciding whether I liked where I was. But yeah, man, and it's such a short period of time really when I look back on it. But yeah, I remember that down in office in Miami on the Gold Coast. I was selling office furniture at the time. Long story short, I worked there for 7 or 8 years. Started just from scratch on the showroom floor selling desks and chairs. Decided that I wanted to fit out offices. Went to TAFE, learnt AutoCAD. Started designing bigger places. Got to a point where I couldn't really design anything bigger than I was doing at the time, unless I wanted to become a builder. So decided I didn't want to be a builder. And that was sort of challenging and learning and growing all the time. But got to a point where the growth wasn't happening anymore. So then I decided that I wanted to leave, had no idea what I wanted to do. But through the dealings with the company that you were at the time, I realised that was a company that I really wanted to work for. Though the reason the company was started in the first place, really caring about people and members and whatnot, the great staff, the great management, the people that were there. It was just an environment I wanted to be involved in. So knocked on that door for about a year and ended up starting in the call center there. Was employed to do business development, but I'd never actually done business development nor worked in the industry before. So started in the call center to learn that, did that for 3 or 4 months, went into business development, started taking over a portion of the marketing for the business, then started taking over more of the marketing for the business, started taking over the business-to-business marketing, and then the member-facing marketing, started managing the call center. That took probably a couple of years to get to there. And in relation to operations and whatnot, that's probably where I actually started really enjoying the job. The marketing was sort of fun to learn. Business development was fun to learn. But when I got to be involved in the call center, and therefore I was involved with what was being marketed out to the members to drive the phone calls to come in, and then being responsible for how those phone calls were actually dealt with, it made me realistically 100% responsible for everything, and really, really, really loved that. And then sort of took over the whole operations for Australia and New Zealand for the business, and had a ball.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Probably
awesome.
the one thing I really loved about that was twofold, actually. One was from an operational standpoint, the problem-solving aspect of things. If you ask me to sit down and write a big procedure, I'm going to have a bit of a problem with that. My attention span's probably going to be a bit lacking in that area. But the amount of times I would walk up the end of the hallway where Michael was sitting up there with Catherine, and Michael would see me coming and go, "Oh no, what's Shane about to ask me to do?" That was the really, really fun part. But also being involved really hands-on in that call center, and therefore probably about a dozen or 15 staff at the time, and being really hands-on with the development and coaching of those people. So from a person aspect, I got to develop and coach people, which was really, really fun, rewarding. And from an operational standpoint, something that has kept my mind really busy. And it was the combination of those two things I really, really liked.
And I think it's safe to say that you're definitely a people person more than a technology person.
100%, yeah. And I think more than anything else, that comes down to probably an attention span thing, to be fair.
Well, just listening to your career, going through the call centres and the development of desks and office space, that's all people person and working with people and developing them. And coming from someone who's developed a couple of call centres in the past, I take my hat off to you. It's not an easy job.
Yeah, it's it can be challenging. I was sort of blessed. The call center that we had was a really positive environment. It was the exception to the rule. If we were talking to someone on the phone, or any of the staff were talking to someone on the phone, and they were really upset, they might have been upset with maybe the situation, but they were never upset with us as a company. So it was it was a pretty lucky sort of call center environment to be in that regard, because that's not the case all the time. Yeah.
No.
And then I got sent to America to originally for 8 weeks. We had a head office was on the Gold Coast. We had an office in the States that ran the Americas region, and they just had a bit of a staffing issue. Call center manager and 2IC were both off on long-term medical leave. They were short in staff there as well. So Shane, can you go over for a couple of months as a stopgap for them? Got there for a couple of weeks and realised that as a company, we decided that there was more upside to the company for me to stay there long term, because I'd been lucky enough to, whilst sort of managing the operations of Australia and New Zealand, this region had always had really, really good managers. And all I was really doing is keeping the ship going in the right direction, maybe a tweak here, a tweak there, but that was about it. But because of that, I was able to learn so many really, really good positive processes, procedures, and just ways of managing things. Yep. So when I got to the States, I was able to use all that information to sort of help there. So I was able to help in a lot of the departments, operations, marketing, business development, project management as well. Yeah, it was blessed and lucky enough to get sent back to Australia, get a visa, and go back to America for an extended period, which ended up being 15 months. And
wow, well done.
And how compatible did you find your work style with the US?
Not compatible at all. But that in itself was a blessing. I guess. One of the issues when I got there was that I don't know necessarily how happy the environment was in the office over there, which, is not uncommon in a lot of work environments. People aren't necessarily looking forward to going to work. Oh, I love going to work because the place is fantastic and great, and we have fun and we do all these things and we care about the job that we do. I mean, that's not necessarily normal. And they didn't have that there. But for me as a manager, my number one goal was always to make sure that people were enjoying being at work, people were enjoying their co-workers, and people genuinely had had a care and a passion about what they were doing and the business they were working for. So
do you think that was because of the way Americans were working, or the way
no,
Americans were working in that office?
I don't. I think what I found more than anything else is the probably the biggest difference is maybe a downward trickle of in Australia we've got a very egalitarian nature. And anyone can really speak to anyone. No one, while someone is above someone, strictly speaking in a professional sense, it doesn't make any one person more important or less important than the other. And I think that's different in the States. And people are a little bit more siloed in the areas where they work. And you go up the chain, you speak to your direct manager, you go to here, there's more procedural things like that. And even from an Australian standpoint, I never enjoyed the how we do that here anyway. I will always just talk to anyone whenever. I don't really care. And I think because of that, I just came in and just literally started talking to everyone and was giving advice and doing this. And and I'm very boisterous and I'm a bit louder. And Australians, particularly me, I'm doing very well so far. Probably slightly worse language than the Americans. So I came in with an accent and all those other things, and therefore just made an instant impact on the people. So I was able to make those changes in the atmosphere a lot quicker. That's really the biggest thing that I found is people generally stay in their section and they're a little bit quieter than we are in Australia. We'll speak our minds.
So
probably a little
maybe
bit
putting
more.
it into different words, is knowledge power over there? Do they take that knowledge as power, or is it procedural that you have to follow a procedure?
I don't think it's necessarily knowledge is power. I almost think it's just inbred into them through standard society.
Okay.
It's you have a higher necessarily. You respect someone on a personal level based on their professional accomplishments. Whereas and therefore that respect is changes the way people treat each other, I think. Now, I was only at one company, so I mean, who knows if that's across the board.
In that company, you managed to inject yourself into all sorts of projects, including some of the really high tech projects where we're putting new switches and VPNs in place. So
Oh man, that was fun. Yeah, relocating an office from one side of the country to the other. And I mean, I hadn't even had a home phone line for about 15 years. So and I think that's also part of my personality is I just want to be learning and growing all the time. So and if I can help in any regard, in any place, I'm going to offer that help. But that also comes down from a professional perspective to being confident to go and talk to people that aren't in my my department, my division, my level, or whatever.
And then you took that passion for people and changed careers completely again.
I did. Look, one of the things that happened when I came back from the States is, I took loads of change. The change of the office, there was so many projects happen, turning around the whole business, building up a whole new call center, doing all these things. And that was literally, people talk about the flow state a lot, I guess. And I found myself in that. I look back after a year and it seemed like 2 days had gone. It was a constant mix of reward with the people, but the challenge mentally, not enough sleep, it turns out. But other than that, everything was great. And when I got back, obviously I'd been gone for 15 months, I think. And obviously the structure had to change here while I was gone. And I went back to doing business development and was just bored. There was no mental challenge and growth in that regard. And business development, when I started, had a little bit more to do with product development and whatnot. But when I came back, it was purely more like the traditional B2B sales side of business development. So I didn't have the operational things to figure out. So I was just mentally sort of stale and bored. Decided that I obviously needed a career change, wanted a career change. And the two things that really I was passionate about, one was health and fitness. I had been for years and years and years. And then through managing the call centers and going over to America and doing that there, I realized how rewarding it was being able to help develop people in any way, being a part of any sort of positive change in people's lives. So I decided to put those two things together, and you get personal training. So there you go. January, I started a full-time course, graduated in end of April. COVID hit. I was going to plan was to start working at the end of April. COVID hit and didn't start until August. So
you do personal training out of a gym or out of a field? What do you do? Tell us about what you do and what's the company name?
Okay, so I work for Good Life Health Clubs, which is a big chain of gyms all around Australia. They're a subsidiary of Fitness Lifestyle Group, which is a huge worldwide company, and they've got loads of fitness chains among other things. I work at Good Life. It's what's called a big box gym. So you go to the gym and it tries to cater a little bit to all different types of people. The reason I did that is I've been training a lot, my whole life for so many years. So I know if someone wanted to train the way I want to train, then great, I can give them exactly what they wanted. But I wanted to get as eclectic a bunch of experiences as I could really quickly. So I chose this gym for a couple of reasons, but the main reason is the people that train there range from 14 years old to 114 years old. They're big, small, tall, short. Just there for fun, to catch up with friends. They're serious athletes and everything in between. So my goal for the first 12 months of being a personal trainer was to literally work with as many different types of people as I can, to one, gain as much experience as I can, but two, the goal was to get to the end of that 12 months and really know what type of person I actually want to work with myself. Is it the 40 to 50-year-old guy who works 70 hours corporate but still wants to be fit and healthy, or is it someone that's a mother that's just had a baby and wants to get her strength back and feel more confident? Is it there's so many different types of people, and so that was the reason why I chose that gym. Plus it's 3 minutes from my house.
So have you landed on a group of people that you like to work with?
I've got a couple. I originally thought it would be 40 and 50-year-old guys that have been able to just enjoy life. They get to a point where they can't run and chase their kids around anymore, and they just want to get fitter, healthier. They maybe don't really know what to do with food. I mean, it's not that hard to figure that out, but if you're working in a corporate environment, there's only so much space you've got in your brain to actually make decisions. You don't want to clutter it up with things that maybe don't seem important to you when you're making big decisions all day long, Mm-hmm. So I thought that would be where I'd want to go. During the time after I got qualified and before I went to the gym, I was just training a couple of friends at my home. One of them was a 40-year-old guy, a good mate of mine I've known for years and years. But then when I started at the gym, I realized the most rewarding person so far was probably girls in their sort of 20s and 30s. I had a couple of clients. I fully expected the role to be rewarding. I really, really did. What blew me away, even after 2 or 3 weeks, was how often it was rewarding and how quickly it became rewarding. I had one client, Taylor, who'd literally been training for 2 weeks. She came in on her second week on a Monday night, literally bouncing, and came running up to me telling me how she's about 25, I believe, how she went to the beach that weekend in a bikini. It's the first time she's been to a beach in a bikini for 2 years and felt comfortable. And the joy and that she was emanating was literally warmed my heart. So I kind of leaning there, 25 to 40-year-old women that just want to gain confidence in themselves. And in Taylor's respect, 2 weeks is not enough time to make really any change physically in your body. And it wasn't that, she went from she lost 10 kilos in 2 weeks. And I mean, it's just not possible. What changed for her was that she'd mentally and physically made some positive changes in her life. This is my assumption anyway. And that just gave her an inner confidence to feel good about herself, that she was taking positive steps. And I think guys probably have the same feeling. They probably get that same, change. But we keep our emotions a little bit more on the inside. So I don't get to see that, So the more rewarding one was the one that really shows me that change. So I'm only 6 months in, and I promised that I would make no actual decisions and have no predeterminations until the 12 months is up. But they're the sort of two areas where I'm looking at the moment. Obviously, the 40 to 50-year-old guys I can sort of relate a lot to, particularly being in corporate in the past and things like that. But the reward on the other side. So, watch this space, mate.
Yeah, I did notice that, while you were talking about the 40 to 50-year-old men, there was two particular people on this podcast who suddenly breathed in and made themselves a lot thinner. Yes, they're the two people I was talking about, Michael, you and me. 2024... go on.
Yeah, it's very... It is... You're right, Shane. It's like, people our age don't tend to give as much feedback as we should when something goes right, unless maybe, it's a new motorbike or something like that.
Yeah, look, we're different. We show, men show their feelings in actions, and we like things, obviously massive rash generalization there.
Yeah.
But, we don't show our emotions as much. But that's one of the things that I need to learn, and which I can do to a degree, but I need to get better at, is asking the right questions with clients to really find out exactly really how they're feeling, and not on the surface, getting sort of deep. And that's one of the things with personal training. It really is, well, a bit of a sales role to a degree in relation to not necessarily selling the product and the reason that people have got to do it, but just getting down to the real reasons people are actually doing things, not surface reasons, and then finding out whether we can then attain those goals, then work and then move forwards, and being able to find out people's real emotions and feelings as we're going along this journey as well, because it's not necessarily easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Being in technology, we're obviously very we're sitting down a lot. We're sedentary. What do you think that there is? And people are often saying that in some ways technology is not helping to improve people's health. Because it doesn't force us. It makes us more lazy, I guess. Do you think that there is a way that technology can help people to become more healthy and more fit? Yeah,
look, I mean, that's obviously probably a question a lot of people have thought of a lot in relation to, has technology been a benefit or detriment to society? I guess this is just a bit of a tangent off that, but I personally, I've always been into fitness and sport and played and done that. And I did it because it was fun. And I didn't know what was going on internally when I would train in the morning, and I would feel amazing and I'd have all this energy, and then I'd go to work and and I didn't know what was going on. But a couple of years ago, I started listening to podcasts a lot, probably 2.5 years ago. I started listening to podcasts a lot, and I started using that as a learning tool to learn about how I can make slight tweaks to my day, the foods that I eat, and all these other things. I think that technology, like in any other respect, technology can be positive or negative depending on how you use it. If you go back 30 years and people were sitting at an office job and they were in IT or they were an accountant or whatever it was, they were sitting in their computer all day long. Because the internet wasn't out there and social media and people telling us all these problems about sitting on computers, well, they weren't doing anything about it because they didn't know it was a problem. So I personally think that technology in relation to how it can get information out to people is more a benefit than anything else. But we have to be able to use it, in the correct manner. A little bit worried about kids in relation to technology because, nephews and whatnot. That I used to play sport, run around every day, every afternoon because there was nothing else to do. Now everyone's playing computer games, which I would have done the same thing if I was, 13, 14 growing up. So I think for kids it's a bit of a problem, and good luck to parents, which I'm not one. But I can only imagine the difficulty that would be. But I think as adults, I think technology is actually allowing us to generate knowledge and understand the importance of putting some health things or practices into our lives to actually make it better. So I personally think just from that, the ability to learn things, I think it's probably more beneficial than anything else.
So I use technology with the younger kids. I've got 10-year-old twins, and I use those as a bribery, if anything, that they have to spend an hour outside on the trampoline, under the hose, riding the BMX, running around like Mad March hares. And if they do that, then they get to spend the equivalent time on their computers or iPads or whatever it may be. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect was during the initial lockdown over here, the younger kids, they had to do a 20-minute gym session, which was all online. And to be able to get them to do it, I had to do it as well. Now, I think that was the first time that I've ever done all of those different wonderful exercises that the kids are doing for 20 minutes. And at the end of it, I was not only completely exhausted, but I was quite energized all at the same time. So, it worked for well. Can I ask you, that's one thing, that's one way that obviously technology has worked. Over the 2020, it's been a hard year for many people. Have you seen technology changing? How's it changed the way you work?
Okay, well, it hasn't changed the way I work because I only started PTing in 2020. So I wasn't doing it before COVID. So obviously there hasn't been a change there. There was obviously over the time of COVID a lot of, Zoom work being done. So a lot of the gyms, the physical gyms were, paid $20 and got a Zoom account and were doing, group classes. But the same thing, like I was having, Zoom parties with my mates at the time as well. And the first time I did it, that was fun. The second time I did it was not so much fun anymore. I was still sitting by myself. So, it did change that. But I think the technology probably hasn't changed in there. I mean, you guys can obviously speak to this probably better than I can. It takes more than 6 or 8 months for technology to change. It's a really short turnaround time. The quick things that did happen were, Netflix investing a fair bit of cash into putting exercise programs on their TV, through Netflix. So you could then, to your point, sit down with your family and just turn Netflix on and follow this thing. The biggest problem people have with health and fitness isn't necessarily figuring out what to do. It's just having the desire and accountability to actually do it. So I think a lot of people look for technology to help a problem which is effectively a person problem, or not necessarily a problem, but being being healthy and it requires physical change in your life. physical change starts with a decision initially to start. But then when you get going, if you're, you've got Fitbits. Fitbits were great. Like, I got my mum a Fitbit years ago, 10 years ago for Mother's Day. Brilliant, because she had a target for doing 10,000 steps a day, and she mentally then had a goal. And I mean, no matter what industry you're in, if your mind has a goal, you've got a goal set, you're way more likely to hit that thing than if it wasn't written down or you didn't have it on your watch. Not only that, when you do it, you get a reward. You just get a little, yay, a little notification, congratulations, you did it. And that's, little dopamine hit. Great. So technology helps in that regard.
The rings on the Apple Watch, isn't it? They, everyone's trying to get their rings up, things like that.
Yeah, and lots of little changes there. I mean, I guess they're probably also learning from all the games that are being developed, by people that know how to hit those dopamine centers in our brain. So they've started doing that. That's cool. One of the things that probably did change a bit and I had time to do a fair bit of study into this, and I'm actually doing a course on it at the moment, which is online training. So that's effectively remote personal training. And there's a few cool apps that you can do that with. I use one called My PT Hub. So I effectively have online clients, and I, at the start of the process, I'll get on a call with them for probably an hour, figure out what their goals are, what they want to do, what type of exercise they like to do, what their lifestyle is like, how busy they are, figure out what kind of things they like to eat, what they don't eat, so I can then go away and tailor a package to them, which includes their training program, their food, and all that type of thing. And then they use this app, so every time it comes to them having they wake up Monday morning, their app things them and says, right, you've got a program. So they just go and follow this. It's got videos, so they know what exercise they're doing if they happen to be doing exercise that day at the gym. They can upload videos, so depending on the move or the exercise that they're doing, I might want to see what their technique is like, so they can video that, upload that technique. So I jump on a call with them once a week. Only takes sort of 15 minutes, jump on a phone call. How did the week go? I'll look at some videos if they've uploaded them. How'd your week go? What was good? What was bad? What was hard? What did you really like? What's coming up next week? And just help people, because one of the big things for people is just that accountability to keep going. Some days we wake up and we just don't want to do anything. You're just tired. So having that accountability, and that's still new to me, and I'm figuring out the best way to use that. But from a technology perspective, particularly in the world where we are at the moment, where we don't know whether we're going to be shut down tomorrow or not, it's given us the ability to really be that hands-on, in-person personal trainer remotely. And so that's actually been really beneficial for a lot of people, particularly for people that are really busy. Like, people want a personal trainer in person. Well, if they start work at 6 a.m. and they want to train in the morning, well, I've got to be there at 4. I like my sleep, so I'm not going to do that. And that's a problem for people. Sometimes people are, might do shift work or whatnot, so it doesn't work for them having to be somewhere in person all the time. So it allows people to be much more flexible. And that's kind of a cool thing too, because when you're in person personal training, and it's not this way all the time, but a lot of the time you focus so much on making sure people are doing the right thing, the technique, not hurting themselves, all this. You don't always have the time just to sit down for 10 or 15 minutes and say, right, how did your week go? Like, what happened on Wednesday? I can see you went and had the hamburger or this, that, ever, that for some reason didn't fit what you were supposed to eat that day. What happened? And usually it's I don't know, something happened in the morning at work that stressed them out a bit. So when they went to order their lunch, they were just too stressed and just went, "Oh, stuff it. I'm just gonna get that." And we can talk through that, figure out the reason why. They now know the reason why, and then they make better decisions the next week. So it offers something different as well, doing that remote training in that way. So that's been really cool.
I've been on that remote training with my PT as well. So I've been doing that for a few months now, and my PT Hub is great. It's like you said, we have a call every week, and it's just a 15-minute call to sort of go through things and figure out what's going to happen next week and what's how things went this week, and it's good. It really keeps you accountable. It's kind of like an external person keeping you accountable, but it's the same as any work stuff that I do. It's just a meeting that we have to see where are we at on this project type of thing, and the project is me.
Yeah, it's a wonderful project.
So productivity as a whole in most companies has increased with people working from home. But the downside of that is people are working from home and they're often working longer hours because they want to get this done. They want to get X, Y, and Z done, whether it be in the IT industry, in the development industry. People are really working longer hours. How do you manage, and you've just mentioned you like your sleep, and I do too. How do you manage your work-life balance at the moment?
Yeah, well, first of all, the reason I like my sleep is because I learnt how important sleep is, and this is only going back a year ago, and that was through listening to podcasts. One of my favourite people to listen to is Dr. Rhonda Patrick. She has a podcast and Instagram called Found My Fitness, and she's amazing. I first heard her on Joe Rogan. I've subsequently gone back and listened to every single one of her episodes, and a lot of the things I learned from her has changed my life and changed the way I do things. And sleep was one of them, and the importance of sleep and what happens when we sleep and what happens when we don't sleep. So it just became a priority before I came back from the States. For the last 6-7 months there, like a lot of people in corporate environments, I was probably sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, particularly when if you're working on multiple time zones. What can you do? But because I learned how important it was, I was like, no, I'm just not doing it. This is way more important to me. I want to make sure that I'm firing on all cylinders every day. I really want to decrease the chance of getting Alzheimer's when I'm older. I mean, there's so many things going on. Mm-hmm. So, but I also made a change last week. One of the things, or possibly the thing that really hooked me on the gym was when I changed what I was doing, which was years ago, which I used to train after work, and I started training before work. So I'd go to the gym and train my backside off, and I'd feel amazing, and I'd get the endorphin rush, and I'd be super energized, and I'd run into the office at 8:30 in the morning while everyone else was rubbing their eyes, trying to wake up, getting in line for a coffee because the coffee was all that was standing between them and falling back asleep. Mm-hmm. And I was just, this Energizer bunny because of that process that I'd put in place. But then when I started becoming a personal trainer, obviously that's the busiest time of our day. So I was literally lost the thing that got me hooked on training in the first place by becoming a personal trainer. And I thought, this just doesn't make any sense. And I needed to change it. And I literally decided Tuesday last week that I don't care. My mental health is more important, and making sure that I get the most out of every single day is more important to me than having a few extra clients. Any clients that I have in the morning, I'm still keeping. I'm more than happy to keep them. I love them all. But I'm not taking on any new clients. I've decided I'm not taking on any more clients before 8:30. So I just get to the gym and I train and I do my training. And I decided that, I said this last Tuesday to the fitness director. I said, look, my goal now is I'm going to have a full load of clients from 8:30 until 2 o'clock. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go home. I'm going to do some study for an hour. Still doing a course on online training, which is more operationally than anything else. And then come back for a couple of hours and work till about 6 o'clock. And a couple of people was like, oh, cool. So all you need to do is get clients when people don't come to the gym. I said, yep, 100%. But that was my goal. So every morning I get up and I do my gratitude journal and I've written down 8:30 till 2 p.m. every day. And 6 working days later, I'm a few sessions short of filling it up all week. And that was it. So I guess in summary, that's obviously my example, but in summary, how do you have a work-life balance? You have to understand why you want to change it, what's important, make it a priority, and really ask yourself why. Like, why is it? What do you want to do, and why do you want to do it? And unless you really know the answer to that question of why, you're never going to be able to make it part of your lifestyle, because you're just not going to make it a priority enough. And that's part of, I guess, what a good personal trainer will do as well, is particularly through that first that initial session, which generally you have. You might have a complimentary 30, 45 minute session with someone to find out what they want, what their goals are, whether it's actually a good fit for them working with me or and vice versa. But, finding out what people really want, and would making those physical changes impact them, and how do you fit into their life? Because it's not a one size fits all. Some people, work on different body clocks. Some people want to train in the morning. Some people want to train at night. Some people hate the gym. Some people want to be out in the sun. Some people love lifting weights. Other people think it's silly, whatever. But it's literally, you need to have a conversation with someone, or even yourself, and find out what you want, what's important to you, and why is it important. And if you're having a conversation with yourself, that means you write it down, because as Jordan Peterson says, if you want to understand your thoughts, write them down.
Yep. Yeah, I noticed you've been doing a lot of journaling lately, and it's something that you've probably changed. I don't know if that's a change that you made recently, or it obviously helps memory when you write things down, but it also helps you commit things to words, which makes it a lot easier to make sense of them. Whereas when they're just thoughts, that's kind of scrambled and like a disk drive that hasn't been cleaned up.
Oh yeah, I started in April last year. Once again through podcasts, I heard that journaling and doing gratitude journals every day was really important, and a bunch of people said it, so I thought, well, it must be true. So yeah, obviously COVID gave a lot of people a lot of time, so I used that time to do it. I actually tried to do it pre-COVID, probably December, January time last year, and did it, probably started twice and did it 2 days and then never kept it up. So I decided in April, when I decided to do it, I just put a post on social media. Every time I did one, I put a post on social media, and to hold myself accountable. And did it. And then the second time I did it, oh man, I felt so strange, because I kept saying to myself as I was doing this, who am I to put my thoughts on social media? Like, who cares what I'm thinking and what I'm grateful for? And anyway, I forced myself to do it, and it's, the process itself has been amazing. The biggest thing for me, and everyone's going to get different things out of it, but the biggest thing for me is my mind is always running, at 100%, like a lot of people's are. I'd imagine, a lot of people, particularly in IT, this is the way their brains work. They're just buzzing over time. And I would get on my bike. I only live a 5-minute ride, push bike to the beach. So I'd ride down to the beach, sit down and have a coffee and listen to some sort of chill out music, put my headphones in, and just write down 3 things that I was grateful for. It doesn't take that long for me anymore, but at the time it took like at least half an hour just to write 3 things I was grateful for, because my brain just didn't slow down, and it just made me more present and gave me a bit of calmness while I was doing it, And that to me was the biggest thing that I got out of it. It was really amazing. Other people do it and get different things. I've had probably 8 or 9 people I know have told me or messaged me telling me that they've started doing the gratitude journaling because of seeing mine.
That's nice.
Oh man, honest, I nearly tear up every time someone tells me. It's such an amazing feeling to know that you've had some sort of impact like that in people's lives, and they're only telling you because they enjoy it. Everyone gets something different out of it. But that for me was that calmness for 20 minutes or half an hour. And routine. I think our brains like routine, or my brain definitely likes routine. So being able to throw that in there, and that was the start of my day, and yeah, it's been really beneficial. And a couple of times I'd put something down that made me think a little bit more about the topic, and I'd flip the page and just start writing what my thoughts were coming out. And you'd think you're only going to write 1 sentence, and you're finished, you've got 4 pages done. And I'm like, wow, and it really helps you understand those thoughts, you know. So yeah, that's been such a blessing for me being able to do that and sort of be a little bit more in touch with my thoughts and a little bit more present.
Good.
Amazing.
We've got 3 questions that we're asking everyone we talk to, and I think you have some interesting answers to this because you're not coming to it from a technology perspective, you're coming to it from a people perspective. Would you do anything differently in your life if you had the chance?
I've almost taught myself not to look back on past decisions too much because I don't want to live in the past. I don't want to live with regret. I've made mistakes and done things in the past that maybe I shouldn't have done, but I almost feel like everything that's happened up until now has made me the person that I am, and I'm happy with the person that I am. And I have faults and positives like everybody does, but all those things make me me. And if you had asked me that question probably in February last year, it would have been, I wish I had have stayed in America and not come back to do the business development role and actually stayed on there, because I had an opportunity to actually stay in the States and manage the operations there. And it was really exciting time in the business. So I probably would have said, you know what, I wish I had stayed in the States, but
now you've got some.
Maybe you didn't.
In hindsight, well, you're like, oh, good decision. But, you know, no, I think we're constantly learning and growing, and I'm really happy with sort of, you know, the mistakes that I've made and the lessons that I've got from them. That might not necessarily be the most proactive way to move forward, to not think too much about the past, but it's the way I do it. So no, I'm good.
So you may have already answered this, but if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing? And obviously you may be in the United States, judging by the last statement.
Well, I'd like to think that I would have been in one of the small percentage of people that were actually able to get a flight back home.
Good.
And not be one of the 70,000 people that are still stuck overseas and can't get back. You know, if I wasn't doing this, I would probably be doing some sort of, you know, call center management / operations management role. Cool. Yeah, definitely, because for the same reasons that we went over before, I love the people. The call center is a mix of dealing with people and dealing with operations and figuring out better way to do processes to make things work smoother and all those. So that the combination of those two things really, I think, make that probably what I would be doing.
Do you have any predictions for the future of your industry?
What I would like to see, and I don't think it's that far off, because we've got wearables that obviously, you know, your Fitbits and whatnot, and that track how many calories and whatnot that you burn over the course of a day. They're super inaccurate, like really, really inaccurate. And then you've got the MyFitnessPals for everyone to track all their food and their consumptions and all this type of stuff. They're really inaccurate as well. Not only are they super inaccurate, people just are not very good at tracking. I think there was a study done a couple of years back, and it's like people that actually track their food and think they track their food all the time usually underreport 18% of what they consume. So
interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting. So imagine what a normal person's doing, and you ask them as a personal trainer, you ask them, so how much do you think you eat? Well, they're probably 50% off. You know, I mean, it's a mile off. What I think will come, because I don't think the technology's that far off, is having your phone and your watch connected to it so that you actually have an accurate depiction of what your body's actually doing, what it's consuming, what it's burning, and then having the ability just to take a photo of what you're eating and that tells you exactly what's in there. It'll give you vitamins, it'll give you, calories, and everything, and it just will give you, through almost no effort whatsoever, an exact picture of where you're going wrong, where you're going right, what you can change and adapt. It still becomes a person thing to make those choices, but it makes things so much easier when people have got a reason to do things, and you can make those things as simple as possible. I think, Bixby camera on Samsung, you take a photo of a Coke can, it tells you it's a Coke can. That science, it can't be that difficult. Surely someone out there can figure that out, Michael.
Even the MyFitnessPal, you can scan a barcode and it'll tell you all of those things.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that the technology is really that difficult for it. And on top of that, there's actually another thing. I think it's called the PAV lock. I heard about this one a little while ago, and you wear it around your wrist, and it gives you a tiny little electric shock when you do something bad, right? So can be used in multiple ways the wrong way, I am sure.
I'm sure.
However, used correctly, yeah. But a big problem that people have, particularly just with health, right? A lot of people like, I really want to be able to say no to eating that ice cream at 10:30 at night, and they really do. But they've just created this habit that's been going for so long that it's super, super hard to break. So the way this thing works, and I don't know how you program it, as I haven't looked into it too much, but I believe you actually just have to give yourself a little shock. But basically, you do that thing that you want to break the habit of, and you just give yourself a little shock. It doesn't hurt a huge amount. It's just not a nice feeling. Yeah. And you just do that over a certain period of time, and I don't think it takes long. We're talking about, if you're doing it every day, it takes a couple of weeks. Your brain now just associates this not great feeling with that thing that you don't want to do anymore, and then your brain just doesn't want to do it anymore. It's really that simple. So you combine those three things into one little wearable or one little app, and you've probably got, you're going to make a lot of money when you sell it.
And listeners, we are talking about a little electric shock. We're not talking about putting your fingers in the 240 volts. We're not recommending that in any shape or form.
Don't try this at home.
Do not try this at home.
Or just buy the Pavlok, really.
Yeah.
It's only
or just buy the Pavlok.
Yeah, it's like that's $100, or it might have been US $100. And it was a lot of people have had a lot of benefit out of it. Whether that's your thing or not. I don't know if you can then plug it into a car battery and just make it a bit more fun. But,
ouch! I'm not sure I'm liking this at all.
Not recommended whatsoever. But realistically, I think that's where we're going. I think people getting an accurate depiction of what they're actually consuming, what their body needs as well. So the consumption thing obviously comes down to losing weight. But if you want to be really healthy, knowing that you're actually also consuming the right amount of foods for energy. Are you getting the right fats? Are you getting the right amount of proteins? Are your muscles inside? Are you actually healthy? Which to me is more important than how you look on the outside. And that's probably a change that's happened for me over the last couple of years.
And also, are you getting enough sleep, as you mentioned before?
Yeah, exactly. And you've got, the Apple Watches are actually getting really good at recording sleep. I had a Whoop strap for a while, which was really, really, really good. Aura rings do it. But they're pretty expensive still. Those Whoop straps now, you pay 45 Aussie dollars a month, and it's a monthly subscription. But the Apple Watch,
my Samsung watch continuously tells me I'm not getting enough sleep, so I'm assuming that it doesn't work at all.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like with doctors, just if you don't get the right response, just go find another one.
I agree.
Yeah. Try an Apple Watch, you'll be fine.
All right, Shane, it's been wonderful to talk to you again, and we look forward to seeing more of you online. What's your Instagram?
Shane Warne Health.
At Shane
Spelled
Warne Health.
just like the cricketer, at Shane Warne Health.
Just like the cricketer.
Yeah.
And we weren't going to mention the cricketer.
I generally don't mention it unless for some reason my last name, remembering my name is important, or the spelling of my name. So, it helps.
Yeah, that works.
Brilliant. All right. Thank you,
Thank
Shane.
you very much.
It's been great talking
Yeah,
to you.
my pleasure, guys. Have a good one.
See you later.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.